Is it time?
Yep.
All right.
Good evening, Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees regular meeting for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Vorbeck here. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. How about Treasurer Bob Dorshevitz?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023.
Motion is made by Clerk Vorbe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I would like to note that in the consent agenda, there is a letter of certification of petition signatures issued by my office. As you recall, at the last meeting, we had a group of citizens come and speak on the SPARS development, and they presented petitions. I examined the petitions. I saw that the title was clear and unambiguous. I noted that the subject matter of the petition was clear and unambiguous, and that any reasonable person would ascertain that what they were signing was what the petition was about, and that I examined 77 petitions, signatures. 74 of the 77 petitions were authenticated by my office.
Okay,
I
thank you.
move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, August 24, 2023.
Okay, motion's been made by Clerk Vorbe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, we will need to take the roll on this one.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorbe, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next up is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. I'll be keeping the timer going here. We do ask that you sign, are we still asking people to sign in? Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
My name is Dale Bernhardt, and I'm against the gambling facility. Mr. Heisey, your new campaign promised focused on the future. So what is that future? Is it a gambling facility in a high-tech zone, the same zone where the governor attracted a hydrogen facility from Norway that will add 513 high-tech jobs? Is your future focused on attracting spinoffs from the hydrogen facility and have ample space for them to grow? Or is your focus to use up that space with a gambling facility? Back in 2019, you stated the MITC corridor was going to be something special, not something crazy like a horse track. So your focus was correct then. So has your future focus changed to include a gambling project? Gary Roberts, the MITC architect, has repeatedly stated that the goal of MITC is to stay within current zoning and fill the zone with 7,000 plus high-tech jobs. Mr. Roberts does have a future focus that's consistent with the residents. So harness racing is a dead industry and has to be heavily subsidized by states. Is that your future focus, to encourage a dead industry to locate here? It seems like Northville Township recognized that there is no future in gambling and horse racing because they denied Northville Downs to locate there. Remember Ross Perot when he said NAFTA would create a great sucking sound? This gambling facility and racetrack will create the same sound, and it would be sucking money from the poor and our state. Your focus in this zone must be around hydrogen. Michigan is at the front of the line for $1 billion toward hydrogen. It is moving fast. Or is your future focus consistent with your economic development coordinator who said, if you don't like it, what I'm putting in, I'll fill open spaces with stuff that will make you cry? Governor Whitmer just launched a $20 million campaign called You Can in Michigan to attract and train workers for high-tech jobs in industries crucial to Michigan's economy. So she has a future focus. So what is your future focus? Is it a gambling site or clean hydrogen and other high-tech jobs? Your residents have a right to know now. Thank you.
Hi, Marilyn Bertera, supporter of the racetrack development. At the meeting, the township board meeting 2 weeks ago, the Stop the Racetrack group presented a handout that had a list of their issues with the racetrack development. So I'm going to respond to most of those issues individually. The first one doesn't meet the criteria for a PUD. When I looked at the definition of a PUD, it's a zoning tool used for greater flexibility and creativity in developing a specific piece of land. Provides a way for development in areas with sensitive material resources without altering the integrity of the natural features. I believe this parcel conforms exactly to those requirements. Traffic issues. Other developments such as the warehouse development across Ridge Road and extensive building on 5 Mile will impact traffic much more than the racetrack. Noise issues. There's a large wooded area between where the racetrack would be located and the residential home community next door, which would be a barrier to noise. Cruelty to horses. The horses are our livelihood and sometimes much like family, so of course they're well taken care of. The Michigan Gaming Control Board has rules in place to ensure the safety of the horses and participants and employs state veterinarians and stewards to enforce those rules. Close proximity to Arbor Hills landfill. I didn't understand that one because there are residences that are closer to the landfill than the track would be. Gambling and drinking addictions. The track will be a small portion of the gambling in the township with cell phones, computers, lottery, and Keno. Alcohol served at the track is a small percentage of all the bars and restaurants located in the township. Probable additional crime. I believe that statistics were presented from the city of Northfield to show that this is not the case. Impact on nature and wildlife and green spaces disappearing. This impact will be the case no matter what kind of development there is. Debt liabilities like Huron Township. Carlo family has a 75-year history of racetrack management and they will not fail. Image of Plymouth Township tarnished. This certainly has not been the case in Northville. Horse racing is a dying industry, not the case in surrounding states such as Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania. Horse racing is thriving and greatly contributing to the economy and agricultural industry in those states. Historical horse racing machines. At the Michigan Senate Ag Committee hearing on October 10th in Lansing, John Carlo testified that Northville Downs is not pursuing HHR legislation. Possible state interference. Michigan horsemen wish that the state was as supportive of horse racing as the Stop the Racetrack group seems to think. Northville Downs and MHHA dictate the number of days of racing. Residents have no say. I don't believe residents have a say in how any private township businesses operate, such as days and hours of operation.
Okay, we're going to have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, last thing. I emphasize again, Northfield Downs at Plymouth Township will be an entertainment facility that includes gambling.
Before you go away, I have a question for you. There was a Michigan Horsemen's meeting that you were at, that you were listed in the minutes, and I wanted to know why Tom Barrett wrote in the minutes as though he said it was completely approved with all of the amenities. Why would he write that I saw it in writing, and your
Do
name
you-
was, you were there, you were one of the attendees.
He never said that. What
Well, that was in the minutes.
what do you
It was
remember?
a Michigan Horsemen's Association meeting.
Which monthly meeting? I'll go back in the
It
minutes.
said October 2nd. Well, anyway, I'd have to, anyway, your name was there, and I just was curious as to why he
I
would
don't
write that
remember
in
him
the
ever
minutes.
seeing that, but I'll check the minutes
We're getting
out.
off track.
All right.
Okay. Okay. The race.
It's a race.
Oh, would you like to go first?
I bet on the guy in the blue.
Right, let
The
me
photo finish.
do this. Hi,
Hi.
I'm Joyce Janicki. And Mr. Tom Barrett, his name was just mentioned a couple of times, as head of Michigan's Harness Horse Racing Association, is just as essential to the future of horse racing in our state as are the Carlo brothers. The Carlos supply the track, Mr. Barrett helps supply the horses. And both realize that horse racing, in order to remain afloat, absolutely must be heavily subsidized by various forms of gambling, that horse racing in Michigan cannot survive on its own. We already know that the Carlo brothers want slot-like historical horse racing machines and initially asked for a casino to be built next to their new track in Plymouth Township. Mr. Barrett was interviewed just a couple months ago and is quite obviously in agreement with the Carlos' need for a casino or casino-like gambling mechanisms to subsidize horse racing. And he mentioned the following in the article. Michigan's horse racing industry currently is subsidized by non-tribal casino gaming, sports betting, along with on-track and online simulcast wagering. However, the industry requires still more revenue. Mr. Barrett is now seeking this increased funding through passage of current Senate bills 411 through 414. However, even these monies will not be enough to revitalize the racing industry. Mr. Barrett states in the article that next, his industry will be asking for the slot-like gambling machines and potentially slots themselves. As examples, Mr. Barrett points to the failing horse racing industries in nearby Ohio, Indiana, and Ontario, which were saved only with the on-site installation of the electronic gambling machines and/or casinos, hence allowing the horse racing industry to be, and I quote, handsomely subsidized. In summary, it can't be made more clear. Horse racing tracks cannot survive without heavy revenue streams from various gambling mechanisms, especially those found in on-track casinos. Both Mr. Barrett and the Carlos have said this, and we all know this many times. Even Kentucky, the horse racing capital of the U.S., cannot survive without casinos. Is this board actually saying no casino now? However, will the casino be revisited in the future? Honesty and transparency are always the best policies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a different subject.
Who are you?
My name is Ed Rule. Anyway, about 4 years ago, I brought before the board that the commercial vehicle parking situation on Tavistock Circle was kind of was more than out of hand. In fact, since the day I moved here. Since then, of course, the pandemic has happened. Denny's no longer exists. We have a car wash now instead. But the issue is that the same, commercial vehicles are starting to use that area again. And basically, it's causing a noise issue, and also for the overnight parkers, the smell of diesel exhaust in the background is not a neighborhood smell. And anyway.
So quick question, are you are behind where Los Tres Amigos and the car wash?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm one of the,
So then there's that
I'm one of the 5 houses that directly border that
Exactly,
area.
so there's that empty, what we call the MDOT lot, that was the old MDOT.
Yeah, it used to be.
Park and ride, and now we have, you're in the houses back there, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I brought up, asking that something be done about it. Something was mentioned about creating a fire zone, no parking, fire zone. There
street-
is a
sorry, what
segment
street are you
of that that has been done, but it's only a very short segment of the east side of Tavistock Circle. The entire north side is wide open, and it's a turnaround area.
The Tavistock Circle.
Yeah.
Where the new
Goes into the parking
car
lot.
wash is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Red Roof Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little stretch of road between the two, and it dead ends in my
And you're
backyard.
back here, sir, on one of these streets? Winesap?
Winesap, yes.
Winesap?
If you could bring that up on satellite, that would be helpful.
What do you think has precipitated the renewed parking there?
Amazon contract truck drivers is my WAG. I have no documentation on it because all these vehicles, they're all registered to different owners, different ICC numbers on them and everything else like that. But I see the same trucks there all the time. In fact, I see those same trucks in just about every parking lot that I walk past, and I do a lot of walking. But at any rate, something was mentioned about even looking into that to declare that area no fire zone, because that area, the north end, that is just barely big enough for a 42-wheel twin trailer gravel train to make a U-turn when there's nobody parked there.
Yeah.
Yesterday, somebody parked there at sundown, and that truck was still sitting there at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, hadn't even moved. That is maybe a little bit longer than some. However, most of them, they're there for 3 hours, 4, 6, 12 hours.
Are
And
they
there's more than
sleeping? Are they
one.
sleeping in these vehicles?
Hmm?
Is the driver sleeping in the vehicle?
Most likely.
Yeah, so what we can do, this is not a new thing, this has been going on for years, and you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
The property in question, that's the gray area on that map, is largely owned by MDOT, okay? It's also owned to some extent by the Los Tres Amigos guy, which I think is probably now the blacktop area there.
Yeah.
But that is still state property, and many years ago, I'm thinking like 6 or 7 years ago, we had, the police would go back there regularly to take the truckers away. Because when the state closed the comfort station on 275, the trucks started dissipating all over the place. So we can go back out there again, and we'll certainly talk to MDOT as well. We'd love it if they would, do something with that property. It's been fallow for at least a decade now.
Yeah, the old park and ride lot is not really as much of a problem as it used to be when nobody was doing literally anything 26 years ago. The area that I'm referring to is Tavistock Circle itself,
Yeah.
the east side of the street and the north turnaround zone.
Well, that's even better because Tavistock Circle, I believe, is still a public road, and
Yes.
that would allow our fire and police greater say in the matter than what we would have in the parking lot.
Well, this new hook and ladder thing, new ladder truck that we have now, if that area is clogged up with these commercial vehicle drivers, trucks, even if they don't have trailers on them,
Okay.
they would have a very difficult time getting in there. And also today, the water and sewer department was out there doing some sewer maintenance, and that one truck was parked back there. Fortunately, it was not in the middle of everything clogging up the road. But it's just the whole idea. Even DTE can't get in there to service the power lines that also run east to west along that stretch.
Yep. Okay, well, our chiefs are now acutely aware of that, and they'll get working on that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you
thanks
very
a lot.
much.
For those of you on the back, there's seating up here. There's no need to stand. Come on down.
Good evening. My name is Paula Vance, a 34 resident of Plymouth Township. And I have a question. I want to know, a couple questions actually. I want to know what's going in on the property just west of La Bisteca Italian Grill on Plymouth Road. And is it going to be allowed to have access to Ann Arbor Trail? Edward Hines, because it looks like if you're driving on Hines, they took out a whole bunch of wooded area, and there's a
That's
road.
gonna-
What's
My-
going on there?
Okay, all right.
So that is going to be a facility called Home for Mom and Dad. It's going to be like an Alzheimer's and memory care facility, probably with about 35 or 40 units. That land was purchased by the operator, I presume from Wayne County, unless that was privately owned. There is no access onto Hines Drive.
Okay, well, that's great, but if you go by,
Well, yeah.
it looks like they've
I think you
tore
would have
out.
to cross the river.
No, it's still a construction zone right now, so somebody may be driving a vehicle off of Hines Drive to get back there, but the county is not going to allow
Okay,
that kind of access. They own that property.
good, I'm glad to hear
yeah.
that, thank you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Cordy. I'm a Plymouth Township resident, and I want to go back to the racetrack issue because I agree with the other statements that were made, but what I really wanted to focus on is your strategic plan that I keep hearing about, because somehow it seems that so many of the new developments that come in, somebody buys some property and then you say, oh, we have to change the zoning. Oh, our strategic plan was for high-tech jobs, but suddenly we're bringing in things that do not have high-tech jobs. And so I'd like to understand why you're so bad at strategic planning that you can't follow your plan. And I looked on Indeed to see what kind of jobs a racetrack would have. So there's a holding barn attendant for about $23,000 a year, a paddock attendant for $24,000 a year, a cocktail server for $20,000 a year, a mutual teller for $17 an hour. These are kinds of jobs where you see all kinds of help wanted ads, signs around the township for people with these low-paying jobs that they can't fill those now. And I don't know about you, but I didn't send my kids to college to be a barn attendant or a mutual teller. And so this is not the kind of high-tech jobs that I expect us to have to attract people to Michigan and to Plymouth Township. So I would ask you to get back to your strategic plan and find developments that actually do fulfill it, rather than some short-term, I don't know what's driving you to want to have a horse racing facility, but I don't see a benefit to the township.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a different topic too. I have a different topic also. My name is Mark Hendricks. I've been a resident of Plymouth Township for 30 years. During that time, I have never had a single water problem when we have rain. But at the end of this summer, ditches were put right down Main Street on the east side to alleviate the water problem potentials. And sidewalks were put in. Unfortunately, I think, at least for the drainage ditches, it's dangerous. I live on the northeast corner of Main and Joy. Over the years, I have countlessly called 911 when somebody at that intersection has had an accident. And the reality is that ditch in front of my yard is 16 inches away from the edge of the road. Somebody's a little far off, we get some slick ice in the winter, and cars are going to be going in the ditch. And the ditch is not small. The ditch in front of my house is approximately 3.5, 4 feet deep, and it's about 5 or 6 feet wide. My next door neighbor, they dug the ditch, and they put down rocks, then they filled in the ditch, and they
He has what are essentially, I believe, called French drains. That would be perfectly acceptable, but I have wide gaping holes in my yard because I've got this deep ditch. So I'd like the township to consider doing something to make a uniform approach of like French drains across the board down the street. It would look better and it would be much safer. And on a personal note, I was told that when they were done, everything was going to be put back together the way it was. However, I put in a walkway from my house to the street. It was rock and flat stone. It was rather decorative. They took it apart to put in the sidewalk and to put in the culvert, and they did not put it back the way they found it. It was level, it was straight, it is now crooked, it is uneven. And so who do I see about that?
Right there.
So,
Our
okay.
township engineer, Jeremy Schroet, is right here with us tonight, and I would just recommend that that you meet with him after the meeting.
Have you met Jeremy or the engineering firm? It was in your front yard all summer?
I think we talked at the meeting that was held by the Main Street residents about a month ago?
Yeah.
We've had infield meetings, we've had emails, we've had a lot of communication about the project, plus our construction manager's been out there, I know, dealing with everybody on a case-by-case basis, so.
So I assume he's gonna come talk to me.
The ditches, our hands are tied on that a bit.
Because of Wayne County?
Again, there were open ditches, there were closed conduits. We have to meet minimum standards. Whether or not there's flooding or not, we still have to plan against the new rainfall atlas. We still have to plan against the minimum slopes, the minimum culvert, heights, minimum 12-inch culverts. So our hands are tied on that. Obviously, Wayne County approved it. So from a danger perspective, there's a lot of things that go into that. Number one, depth of ditch. Number one, steepness of slopes. Number one, closeness to travel lanes. All of those are well within AASHTO, FHWA, and MDOT guidelines. So again, we're kind of, our hands are tied on that. There's not a lot we can do. We have to meet these minimum guidelines, and a lot more goes into it than just whether or not it's an open ditch or not.
Okay, so if you were here on the ditch issue, the Main Street ditch issue, then I would just recommend, Jeremy's going to be here all night, and I think we're going to be going into a closed session, I think soon, and when that happens, you guys can stay here and talk to Jeremy or go out in the hall, but he'll be happy to answer your questions, because there's a lot of detail, obviously. He's going to want to take notes and things like that.
Well, Jeremy, the restoration, that's an easy one. We can do that.
Yeah.
That should be done. Hopefully you have photographs of what it used to look like, so we can imitate.
And the person who installed it 3 years ago from a landscaping company in Canton has already come out and told me what it's gonna take to, I'm supposed to get a quote tomorrow on getting it fixed, but.
Restoration is a punch list item. Again, we try our best to restore it to original conditions. It's never gonna be exactly the way it was. Again, these are things that are installed in the right of way. If Wayne County comes in and does a road project.
It also happened within my property line. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just in the right of way.
Yeah,
it did happen in my property line.
Yeah.
So it's changed from inside your property line.
Oh yeah, when they dug it up on both sides of where the sidewalk was gonna be, and they went back several feet, which
Okay,
included.
we gotta fix it, so
Yeah,
get
which
together.
included my property.
And your neighbors that filled in the ditch, they violated the rules. They're not
They didn't
supposed-
fill in the ditch.
All right, they're
The
not
team
supposed to
did
fill it in.
Whoever installed it that way.
All right.
So I just like it to look like theirs, because theirs looks nice.
Okay.
But my yard firm that comes, they can't get their equipment in the ditch because it's too steep. And so they have to weed whack the ditch. That's the only way they can cut the grass,
Because of the angle.
because of the angle.
And if I might, everybody has a different fit on the street.
Okay, we can't have an open forum like this. You can speak soon, yeah, no problem. Okay, who's next? Come on down.
We'll talk to Jeremy. So I don't
Yeah.
have a whole lot to say. I find it really, David Graham, 9014 South Main Street. Okay. I find it hard to believe that they meet code for safety. They're so close to the street that if you sneezed and veered a little bit, your car is rolling over in my front yard. On the sidewalk, if you're riding your bicycle, the steep 40-degree slope starts about this far from my sidewalk. If a kid veers off just a little bit onto the grass,
he's going down into the ditch. I think it's very unsafe. I was mowing my lawn for the first time and tried to do it down into the ditch, and I slipped and fell on my butt, and I'm very lucky to not put my foot under the lawnmower. So being code, they're not mobile. I challenge anybody to try and walk down into one and get back out. It's crazy. And what I was saying was some people have these honeycomb sewer tops and completely flat grade. And some of us have 4 or 5 foot deep holes. A car would tip over.
Okay.
I suggested to the mail lady, or I suggested they move the mailbox closer to the street because if it was snowing, the mail truck would fall into the ditch. And they agreed and moved it a foot or two closer to the street. I think it's insane and it's ugly and nobody's going to maintain them and it's going to look like garbage in a few years. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I show you a few more pictures while I'm talking about the same thing?
Okay.
Here's a video of what he's talking about. This is his ditch, with me walking down into it. And then, if you
Okay.
guys want to look at this, I'll show you at the end, this is the resolution that we're proposing that they did at one of the houses. And the resident did not do it.
You want your phone back, or you want me to pass it around?
If you can pass it around so people know what I'm talking about.
She doesn't want to touch the phones.
I don't want to touch it
Has
because
cooties.
I've got, no,
Okay,
doesn't have
that's
cooties
fine.
on
Okay, so
I
is
don't
this,
feel
What do you want me to do with it?
it. Give it to whoever feels
I don't know.
okay enough to.
Yeah, whoever wants to look at it, if
Does
not.
anyone want to look at this on the phone?
I've been out there.
All right. I will look at the
Gotta
pictures.
find a solution
Okay.
that is in compliance with Wayne County regulations.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my name is Laura Schumont. I'm here to talk about the same issue on Main Street. My name is Laura Schumont. I'm here to talk about the same issue on Main Street as far as the ditches go. My house currently does not have a ditch. Thank you for taking care of us, Jeremy. I'm just here to support my neighbors because a lot of them were out of town and couldn't be here to speak, so I'm kind of here to speak for them. Of the 15, at least 15 houses from one side of Judson to Main Road, we have representation of 8 houses here. I have letters or notices from 5 of the 15 houses of why they couldn't be here. So that's 13 houses out of at least 15 on the street that are not happy with the ditches. I can either read why they're not going to be here. One says, I'm in lockstep with the neighbors with these ridiculous ditches. They're absolutely a hazard to traffic and should be filled in, let alone impossible to maintain the grass. Another one says, who's out of town and out of the country, the ditches are very deep, nearly 6 feet in places, not even a car width off the road. No other town has anything like this so near to the town center. Drivers will go off into the ditches. A hazard has been created where nearly none existed before. The depth and steepness make it impossible to maintain. The soil is nearly all sand after going down about 16 inches. We never had standing water in our yards or in the street. The sidewalk is nice, but the ditches are a tragedy. I hope we can get some reasonable action from the township management. I don't think they would want a giant ditch they don't need in their yards. And then just a couple other ones just to show that we have more support on this. And then I'd just like to go on to say that the sidewalks, with a couple of exceptions because of the curves, if somebody's going down the sidewalk and they don't see the curve, they're gonna go straight and end up in the ditch, which is one reason, the safety issue that we're talking about, that I think you can see in one of the pictures. The ditches are the main concern. After all, this is Main Street. It represents Plymouth and Plymouth Township. And I don't believe that, with the grass growing, that it probably will because it's hard to maintain. And I can show other people in the video how hard it is to get down into the ditches. It's gonna be impossible to maintain for people. You're also probably possible into getting weeds, and getting in and out of the ditches, like I said, pretty much impossible. The safety issues for bikers, like I said, the curves and stuff like that, which I know you can't do anything about, but if the ditches were somewhat filled in, it might stop somebody from going into the ditch, which I understand has already happened at one of the houses. And as mentioned, you can see in the pictures how close the ditches are to the street. I've been turned left into my driveway at one point, and I've learned to move way over to the right because people do pass me on the right-hand side, which would be the west side of the street, and there's no shoulder or anything, but they do go around me. So if they were to go around somebody on the east side of the street, which is where the ditches are, they're gonna end up in the ditch. People don't care, that's how they drive.
We're gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, so the solution that we're asking about is to add rocks at the end of each culvert, at the entrance, maybe fill in remaining with dirt, which is like shown in the pictures I just passed. And this would just make Main Street probably a little bit more attractive and be safer to residents to maintain traffic and sidewalks and
Yeah.
users going down the sidewalk.
Give us all those letters to
Yep.
to Jeremy. Thank you.
Jeremy, could we also get, I don't need it tonight, but could you find whatever the Wayne County regulations are? You mentioned a couple,
Yeah, I created a kind of a background document of everything that we went through, including all the regulations and why we have to do what we do. I can just share that with the board. We did look at the ditches. We did look at, possibly enclosing things. There's a lot of challenges with that. Number one, cost, but number two, just minimum slopes, trying to keep self-cleaning velocity through these pipes. You can go flatter in a ditch, you can't go flatter in a pipe, those types of things, so.
okay. All right, that's fine. Okay, hello.
Hi, I'm Nancy Sheehan. I've lived in Plymouth Township since 1978, and I live on Main Street with a new ditch. So I'll probably be the last one to speak about the ditch, but the ditch in my yard is 4 feet deep. It is too steep for me to climb in and out of. I don't intend on maintaining it. My biggest concern, having been a teacher at the High School of Environmental Sciences and Hydrogeology, is that our soil is perfect. It's sandy, it runs. Any water that is going to move through our township right down into Canton. And my biggest fear is that these ditches, without being maintained, are gonna turn into phragmite ponds, which will stop the flow of the water even more and look really much more like other neighboring townships. It's not a good look. The phragmites are right down the street. They'll come right our way. Most municipalities don't have great plans in place to take care of their phragmites. They're starting to deal with it now. They've been around for 15 years. They will take over the ditches and it will be really unattractive.
What is
and
a
stop the water
phragmite?
flow. A phragmite is one of those tall plants that fill in the ditches along the freeways. They're invasive.
Invasive species.
They fill in by roots and by seed, and they're unstoppable.
They kill off cattails.
Yep. They kill off all native species, and they stop water flow. So if the ditches aren't maintained by the residents being in the easement because they're too steep, then they're gonna turn into phragmite ponds within the next 10 years.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Bill Pine, 45-year township resident. I'm here to urge you to hold your horses on circumventing zoning Plymouth Township's valuable, high-tech, and light industrial real estate for low-value developments, including but not limited to Northville Downs Gaming Facility. The Detroit metropolitan area is actually going through one of its greatest periods of uncertainty in the last 60 years. Detroit is driven by the car companies, which are driven by their powertrains, a strong barrier to entry for new manufacturers, which no longer provide such assurances with the rise of EVs. We now have emulsified fuels, about half a dozen flavors of batteries, ammonia engines, hydrogen engines, 3 or 4 flavors of fuel cells, 3 or 4 flavors of fuel for fuel cells, and about a half a dozen different flavors of hydrogen. All alternatives need to consider cost, energy density, electricity source and availability, emissions, pollution impact, safety, infrastructure, supply chain security, sourcing, and base material availability. One of the top 3 most attractive of these many alternatives are PEM fuel cells, which are what Nel Hydrogen is going to build. Plymouth Township has essentially won the lottery, or at least half of it. When the fuel cell plant first came up, I told you that 6 to 8 supporting plants, shops, or labs are highly likely based on my industry experience. I've since validated this in discussion with 3 of my friends. The first one is one of the auto industry's leading independent market analysts. The second published the industry standard on industry patterns and assessment for decades. And the third started and was the first CEO of the auto industry's Tier 1 Supplier Association. All three said the same thing I told you and identified further impeccable sources, including international press, that could be approached to define this more fully. Benefits of fuel cell manufacturing are that high-tech fuel cell employees want nice homes, driving up home prices and overall property values. Property tax revenue will go up with little or no township cost for services, unlike the need for more police and other services with the racetrack. The closest analogy I've come up with on benefits associated with the fuel cell plants are the plethora of new battery plants going up. In Spring Hill, Tennessee, GM has followed this projection and additionally donated $1 million to local charities as part of its program. In Brownstown Township, Michigan, GM has followed this projection, and in the Detroit area has donated about $50 million to local charities over the past 4 years. So why consider low-cost alternatives when initiatives to the fuel cell plant could generate 5 times, possibly 10 times, or maybe 20 times the community benefits? Why hold your horses? This initiative was taken by our U.S. Senator and U.S. Representative. Accordingly, I approached them to ask, what's next? In multiple conversation with Debbie Dingell's office, they indicated that they are in the early stages of organizing town hall meetings on this subject, fuel cells.
Time's up.
I've got about 30 more seconds, for November, December. Given their success with the anchor plant, we need to work through the process for any supporting facilities. You need to hold your horses on approving zoning circumvention, the PUD, and understand the more beneficial use of land for fuel cells that meets the zoning requirements. Can you imagine being presented with the opportunities to build multiple new plants only to have to turn them down because you've supported other low value-added alternatives, like the gaming facility? You'd be like the folks who sold Manhattan to the Dutch.
You have to wrap it up, sir. Come on, you know the rules.
Well, here's it. You want to be like the folks who sold Manhattan to the Dutch for $24?
Mr. Pine, come on.
Don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Thank you, sir.
Win the other half of the fuel cell lottery.
Okay. Anybody else?
The point about powertrain is pretty good. Because that's what kept auto companies from getting in business before. If you had to make engines and transmissions, now you don't have to.
I think this should be enough. I've got more.
So that's why it's pivotal.
When does my time start? Okay, my name is Bea Friedlander. I represent Attorneys for Animals, which is a nonprofit in Canton Township. I live about 4 miles south of here near Ridge and Joy. Our organization opposes the racetrack. The message I have for you tonight is horse racing is a dying business. The township has used the planned unit development process to pursue the relocation of a track that is out of step with your master plan and at odds with the wishes of township residents. You've exhibited a lack of transparency since the project was announced earlier this year, and there's a perception among residents based on reasonable assumptions that the deal had been in the works for years before. Horse racing is a dying business. It's declined in popularity. Michigan tracks, all but one, have closed since 2000. The Horse Racing Advisory Commission on the state level can't even fill its allotted seats because there just isn't enough of the industry remaining. It relies on subsidies from the government and from an increase in gambling to survive. Even industry insiders question the viability, and those industry people who testify at state legislative committee hearings admit that they rely on government subsidies. Casino and tribal interests, as well as animal advocates such as our group, continue to oppose.
there is some indication that the state legislature may be running out of patience. If you look, and I've got a cite to it in my written comments, if you look at the hearing a couple of weeks ago in the Senate Ag Committee, even Senator Hertel admitted that this session's version was slimmed down from the one before. So I ask you, are you relying on the state's continued largesse? Have you considered contingencies should the state become less generous? How much funding will the township be providing? Inquiring minds and township residents want and deserve to know. The gentleman who spoke before clearly showed an opportunity loss here. By pursuing this dying industry, you're not looking at things that fit better in the technology corridor. And finally, I will say that horse racing is a dying industry because it's abusive to horses. I've listed horses who have died at Northville Downs. It's abusive in other ways.
I'm going to have to ask you to
The
wrap it up.
doping scandal, it's even propelled a federal law. And the life of horses in the industry is not good.
We have your letter,
urge you
and we
to
appreciate it.
reconsider the rush to push this proposal to completion, particularly considering the strong and concerted community oppositions.
Okay, thank you very much. It's time to
We
wrap
believe
it
that
up.
such a review would lead to the conclusion that township residents
Other people would like to
and
speak.
resources are not served by propping up an
Other
industry
people would like to speak.
which
We have your
cannot
letter.
survive
Thank you
on
very
its own,
much.
is dying, is not wanted by the community, and abuses
you.
animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Friedlander.
You're welcome.
Thank goodness you didn't have to drive far.
I would have driven.
Okay, folks. Okay, folks.
Hi, Mary Ann Adams, 25-year resident of the township. Many reasons why Northville Downs moved to the township are not only wrong, but they're egregious. As many people have stated already, without state subsidies, this is an experiment that's going to fail. Tonight, I will focus on the issue that is personal to me, which is gambling. Even though I've learned enough about the horse racing industry over the past few months to know the mistreatment of horses is inexcusable. For those of you who think that residents are no longer concerned about a gambling facility moving into our township just because the current Senate bills in committee to revive this dying industry do not include historical horse racing machines, I am here to tell you otherwise. Even without historical horse racing machines or a casino, betting on horse racing is gambling. Next slide. Further, to those who say otherwise, horse racing in Michigan is regulated by the Michigan Gaming Control Board. Next slide. To repeat, in 2022 at Northville Downs, only 4% of wagers, less than $2 million, were on live races. 96% of wagers, or $50 million, were on simulcast races, or horse races held outside the state. Go and visit the facility. Few are watching the live horse races. And just so it's clear as to what the end game must be, as was indicated many times, horse racing has to be subsidized in order for it to be successful. This is evident across the United States, where in the end, even with subsidies, horse racing falls to pure casinos. Next slide. As we know, the initial application to the township included a future phase for a 53,800 square foot gaming facility. The February 15 Planning Commission documents stating this are currently available on the township website. Next slide. Further, the Michigan Harness Horse Racing Association president, as was stated earlier in a recent article on mibets.com, referred to handsomely subsidized states as examples to revitalize the industry by increasing subsidies through increased tax revenue, allowing historical horse racing machines, which are similar to slots, allowing casino slot machines. Next slide. If Senate Bill 411 through 414 make it out of committee and get passed by our state legislators, it will move subsidies to this dying industry and allow for a temporary gambling hall until the racetrack is built. I have one question to you, Kurt. Are you done negotiating the community benefits agreement?
Our last meeting with them was on October 2nd.
Is it complete?
No.
Okay.
And your time is up too. So
I just
please
have
wrap
a
it
few
up.
questions.
Okay.
My goal is to see this development go away, and because no amount of supposed recreational or monetary benefits will be sufficient to the majority of residents, use your political clout and negotiate with the Carlo brothers to lease or sell this land to a truly more beneficial development for the township. If you think gambling is a non-issue, then solidify no future expanded gaming by including in the community benefits agreement as well as our master plan or appropriate legal documents protecting this township, no promotion of this development by the township, no temporary gambling hall in the township ever, and no HHR machines or slots or casino ever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, hold on.
And as you know, I'm opposed to the racetrack. I passed out a little info packet at the beginning of the meeting. It's regarding Governor Whitmer's plan for bringing talent and high-tech jobs to Michigan. And this goes hand in hand with the hydrogen development coming. And you said, Kurt, this is going to be the centerpiece of the MITC. The proposed racetrack doesn't fit this area at all. We need that land for possible spin-offs of this company. We need to follow the governor's plan to grow the economy, not put up a gambling facility. Dale was right on target at the last meeting when he questioned you on why the complete turnaround from your May 2019 statement on making this area something special. Your disingenuous response of COVID was pathetic. You should have been truthful and said, follow the money. This community belongs to the residents, not you, Kurt Heise. You seem to have appointed yourself a committee of one who has isolated yourself and failed to disclose information to your constituents and even the other 6 members of the board. Why have you done a complete turnaround from boasting about a project that was going to be something special to something like crazy like a racetrack? Those are your own words. I'm truly appalled at the turn this board has taken. Remember, there's an election coming in 2024. You are here to represent your constituents to make this a great place we can all call home. Thanks.
Ann Kozal, 23-year resident of Ridgewood Hills. And when making big decisions like the racetrack, it always comes down to a risk-benefit analysis. How much will you risk for the racetrack? Plymouth Township will have to spend millions of dollars on infrastructure, municipal services, and to address traffic resulting from the racetrack, and without seeing racetrack revenue for 10 years.
Are you willing to risk our community's fiscal stability? One soccer field in the middle of a horse racing track surrounded by manure, racetrack stalls that hold 90 horses, potential contamination issues from the Arbor Hills landfill. Are you willing to risk our community's health? Alcohol being served from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. every weekday within 2 miles of 3 K-8 schools during school pickup, recess, kids walking home. Drivers potentially under the influence of alcohol consumed at this racetrack. Are you willing to risk our community's safety? Over 100 police calls per year at Northville Downs, animal cruelty, increased noise and light pollution, parimutuel gambling. Are you willing to risk our community's reputation, peace, and quiet? Rebranding the racetrack behind the scenes as a PUD to make it fit into our tech corridor. Are you willing to risk losing the confidence of your constituents and your credibility as a township trustee? An invalid, outdated traffic study, unaddressed contamination issues, and immense, expansive community opposition. Are you willing to risk your professional reputation as a responsible steward of our community? Harness racing is a dead industry requiring heavy subsidies from the state of Michigan. 4 previous racetracks all failed, one leaving Wayne County with $36 million in debt. History suggests this one will also fail. Are you willing to risk the financial future of our township? What is worth the risk? The Nell hydrogen plant and its spin-off suppliers. Not only will the hydrogen fuel plant bring over 517 high-paying jobs and $400 million invested into our local community, but according to you, Mr. Heise, the hydrogen plant will bring in support industry and suppliers who want to be close to the hydrogen plant. You're not wrong. They will pay top dollar for this land where you want to put the racetrack, adding jobs and revenue to Plymouth Township. Per Cranes of Detroit, this hydrogen tech growth would give Plymouth Township an opportunity to participate in the Department of Energy's Midwest Hydrogen Hub, giving Plymouth Township access to portions of $1 billion. This will make Plymouth Township not just a Michigan leader, but a global leader for the future. This risk, with dozens of benefits, is one worth taking. Compared to Northville Downs, the hydrogen spinoff companies using this prime corner property will bring more jobs, higher paying jobs, more revenue, and businesses contributing to our economy, not a dead-on-arrival racetrack heavily subsidized by Michigan taxpayers. Saving this land for its intended purpose of high-tech, big-revenue hydrogen spinoff companies brings our community not only less risk, but more reward. Let's bet on future business, industry, and the high-tech opportunities that will bring money into our community and follow the master plan.
Okay.
Let's bet on the future of our community. Let's bet on giving our township an opportunity to be a leader for the future as a hydrogen hub. Take the smart risk, take the fiscally responsible risk, take the risk with all the benefits. Choose future hydrogen spinoff companies over the racetrack for this piece of property.
I'm glad you support the MITC. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to move on now to item F1, this Board of Trustees regular meeting and study session schedule for 2024. What we've done here tonight is the Open Meetings Act requires us to put our schedule together for the upcoming year. We have several challenges, though, due to the election schedule and the new changes to the state constitution and state law, which mandate early voting, 9-day pre-voting, and other new requirements that are being placed on the clerk's schedule, which means that the clerk's office has to use this room, the room across the hall, basically every available room that Jerry can find is going to be turned into some kind of election activity function. So we are going to scale back the number of meetings that we have in 2024, and that's noted here for July and August and October. The November and December meetings, we typically only have the one meeting. And then August, we usually just have one meeting anyway, so we'll continue that tradition. February, we're just going to have the one meeting on the 6th due to the 2024 presidential primary, which is going to, we now know, is going to be held on February 27th. Jerry will still have to have the 9-day early voting prior to that, and so we have to be using this room. And frankly, it's going to be a dry run, I think, really, for you guys to see how all of this really works. It's one thing to have it in writing, but it's quite another to turn it into action. So this is the schedule as it currently exists. I hope there's no changes to this. We've tried to avoid holidays, obviously, and other conflicts, so.
So no work sessions scheduled right now?
No, I mean, we can always call a study session if we have to. I just felt that for this year, we have not needed study sessions as often as we did in the early years here. So, Bob, if you just want to scroll that up, I think that says so. Study sessions will be scheduled as needed. So.
So
Okay.
April, when is the public school holiday?
For Easter?
Well,
It's always it's moved to the first week in April all the time now?
They move it around all the time.
Well, no, now it's set.
Well, none of us
I don't
here-
have children, but
none
some
of
of
us
you
here
people may have children that have that time off.
Nobody here has kids in the public schools, to my knowledge, so. And Bob's guys are all in college now, so that's good.
They're off the payroll.
They're off the, oh, no, are
No,
you kidding? They're
heck no.
on the
College
payroll.
is definitely
They're on the
payroll
payroll.
increase.
Mine are off
So-
the payroll.
God bless.
Oh, yours are off, yeah.
So anyway, there's never a good time for this, but, so they're off
So the
that last week of March.
They're off the last week in March.
Because Easter next year is March 31st. Good Friday is the 29th. So they do coincide with the real Easter schedule. Okay, any other questions on this then? I'll entertain a motion. Jerry, do you want to do that?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move to adopt Resolution 2023-10-2490, authorizing the formal scheduling and publication of the Charter Township Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting and study session schedule for the calendar year 2024.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item F2 is appointment of David Ladowick to the Planning Commission. Dave, are you here tonight? Yes, just please stand up so we all put the name with the face. Now, I think most of us have met you before in your prior activities in the township. His resume is attached, and assuming there's no questions, I would appreciate a motion
I have
on
a
this.
question.
Okay.
Dave, you just moved to the township in the last 6 months, correct? You lived in the city of Plymouth before that, for how many years? 12 years. So why are we appointing somebody who's only been here 6 months?
Well,
Is there any other choices?
Mr. Ladowick has extensive knowledge as a builder and a contractor. He's currently the chairman of the Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, and
Which includes Plymouth Township.
which includes Plymouth
Right.
Township, and he has been very active in many activities, including Kiwanis and other activities in the.
But isn't
community.
residency something we think about? I
Well,
know he's a resident
I think
now.
he knows. I mean,
Yeah, he's a
he's
resident
clearly come to Plymouth Township from the city because I think we're
Because we have lower taxes.
better.
He likes us.
Yeah,
Lower
we're
taxes.
better.
He's smart.
So he's a smart guy. So he's already made an important first move, so. But I think David has an extensive knowledge of the Plymouth community and the needs and concerns of the township. So,
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move to approve the appointment of David Ladowick to the Plymouth Township Planning Commission for the partial term ending June 30th, 2025, as indicated in the resolution 2023-10-2491.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
No.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, up next is the public hearing for the fiscal year 2024 budget. This is required by state law under MCL 42.26. A notice of public hearing was circulated in the newspaper of general circulation on October 17th. And
What
the
was
notice,
that newspaper?
That would be the Detroit Legal News. or-
Detroit Legal News.
Yep.
Yeah. We have
Nobody
no
else
other
publishes.
options.
So, and that's
So
just
we
state law.
can't do anything. What is?
We put it on, online as well, but state
Right.
law does not allow electronic publication for publication.
Yeah.
It's a,
Oh, what a sad state of affairs. We don't have a
we
local
tried to change
paper.
it. We tried to change it in the past, but the newspaper industry said no. So I'm going to open the public hearing at 8:05. I'll make that motion. Is there a second? Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Do we have to take the roll?
Yes. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Motion carries.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open on the 2024 general fund budget. This also includes the water and sewer fund, DDA, BRA, trash, senior bus. I think that's about it. So any other questions or comments on that? All right, a motion. Yes, sir.
This afternoon, I had a meeting with Sam Plymouth of the DDA.
The city DDA.
City DDA. Mr. Plymouth has raised over $100,000 for the music concerts in Kellogg Park, and he has accomplished this by going to businesses in Plymouth Township. I know we have only $8,000 in here for Gary Heitman, whom I have not seen. I don't look back at meetings. I'm a lawyer who goes to court, and I remember what I said, and I stand behind the words that I say. I don't look back at planning commission meetings. But there were some highly offensive words used by Mr. Heitman, and apparently they occurred in February, and here we are at the end of October, and I haven't heard an apology to the public. So I'm trying to rationalize all those facts. That Sam Plymouth, if we had $100,000, I'd hire Sam Plymouth in a heartbeat to be Economic Development Director for the Township of Plymouth.
Okay.
I was shocked to find out he had raised over $100,000 from businesses in Plymouth Township. My wife, as the 15-year executive director of the Michigan Philharmonic, can't even get a return phone call from Henry Ford. Mark Corbo, Vice President of Communications, $250,000 man, the foundation of Henry Ford. The lady who is the director of the foundation of Henry Ford doesn't even return phone calls. We got a measly $6,000 or $8,000 from Bosch. They made $52 billion in profit last year. Take my numbers to the bank. I had an idealistic, wrong idea about what Mr. Heitman was going to accomplish. But there's no excuse for absence. I haven't seen him. I will vote to approve this budget, but there's no excuse for absence. And there's no excuse for immature actions insulting the people of Plymouth Township, where I've lived for 40 years. I don't know who sanctioned those words, but there better be a course correction and an apology as soon as possible by the next meeting. Now, I'm not going to raise my voice. I can talk in a pianissimo. But this has been highly embarrassing that we have an economic development director who insults the people of Plymouth Township. And I'm not going to put up with it. I don't know why we are not looking. I understand. I've been told by Trustee Kermy that this is a revolving contract, and we're set with Mr. Heitman for the next 2.5 years.
No, 1 year, till the December of 2024 is when this contract expires.
As I said, if we found $100,000 in our budget, I'd hire Sam Plymouth from the city DDA, just like that.
They pay him $100,000?
No, you You mistakenly said something, and you did it with intent, Bob.
Oh, my.
Oh, boy.
He raised $100,000 from Plymouth Township businesses. And what is it you don't understand about that, Bob?
Okay, guys.
You want me to say it in a pianissimo?
I don't know what a pianissimo is.
Well, I know you don't.
What the hell is
I
that?
figured that. Get cultured.
Okay, okay.
Get a soft voice.
We're all set?
Get cultured.
So this is the
If you
public
want to
hearing.
insult everybody, go right ahead along with Gary Height.
So this is the public hearing on the budget.
Yes or no?
If anybody wants to
Are
talk
you
about
going
the
to
budget.
seek correction of his derogatory words? Yes or no?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Or Bob?
I'm not Gary Heitman. Why don't you call him up?
I don't know what
You
you're talking
control
about.
Gary Height.
Oh, my goodness.
I believe he verbalizes your intent.
Wow. Okay, John.
We're gonna develop every inch of property. We're gonna make you cry.
Okay, John.
And then as a child, we're gonna stick our tongue
Mr.
out.
Supervisor,
Yes.
this is out of order.
Okay, let's move on.
This is out of control.
Does the public have any questions? Does the
hearing.
He's
public
not
have-
even here.
Does the public have any questions about our budget? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to move, I'll move to close the public hearing at 8:11.
Second.
Seconded by Jerry. Please call the roll.
Okay. Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
This is to close it?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Clerk Forby, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Sure, yes.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item F4 is request to delete tax administration fee. Mr. Kermy.
All right, the tax administration fee, for everybody's benefit, we began levying in 2018 a 1% administration fee, which is on the bottom line of your tax bill you just paid. The revenue can only be used for the treasurer and the assessing departments. The fee is not a tax, and it cannot be deducted, although it is in many cases by mistake, on your 1040 Schedule A. Many townships collect the fee throughout, especially in the north, the small townships. Northville Township stopped collecting it several years ago. This action will save about $50 to $150 per household per year, depending on how much tax you pay. So if you pay $5,000 a year in property tax, you'll save $50. Interest rate, the reason why I think we don't need this is interest earnings have risen sharply since 2022. And this will substantially offset the anticipated $830,000 annual revenue reduction caused by deleting this collection fee. When the fee isn't collected, the treasurer can negotiate with other taxing authorities like Schoolcraft College and the school district a fee per parcel to collect money for them. You cannot do that if you have a tax administration fee on your tax bill. I have proposed the offsets, and we can go through them. The first one is an estimate of $80,000 that we could receive in per parcel fees. Bob, how reasonable is that? I'm assuming it's $3 a parcel.
It's overstating because the community, if you survey some communities that do that, and most, if you fill the room with township or with treasurers across the state of Michigan, and you ask them to raise their hand as to which communities charge it, most everyone in the room would raise their hand. That's what happened when I was at a conference last year.
Raise their hand and to mean
that
what?
they do the 1% fee.
Yeah, it's widely done.
It's widely done. So $80,000, I think, is way overstating it for a couple of reasons. One, you can't do it in the winter because you're already sending out tax bills to collect for the township. So it's summer only. You can't collect from Wayne County. So you'd have Schoolcraft and Plymouth Canton schools would.
What about the DIA and those people?
That's winter. You can't do
Okay,
it.
you can't do that.
do
All right.
Wayne County. So the most I would estimate that we could probably do, and I did check with Schoolcraft, and I checked with the city of, I checked around a lot, but I was in communication with Schoolcraft, and the most we could probably get out of them would be maybe 14 or 15,000. So in total, I wouldn't expect it to be optimistically not more than 35 to 40,000. And then the second part of that is that they would likely want to bring the revenue generated from the tax account. They would want that if we.
You mean they would want the interest?
They want the interest, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. So I think that's not.
Okay, so that's overstated.
I think it is.
When you add up these numbers, they add up for more than 830,000, so there's some cushion. The next one is incremental interest revenue, which I don't think is completely captured in the budget. Interest rates are rising, and they're going to be strong. One thing we're doing in this budget is we are spending the interest that we're earning, so we're getting a bump in addition to the 1%. So it's kind of a bonus. This budget is, in my opinion, kind of fat. So
let me address.
Tell me about this one.
Yeah, let me address that. So in the budget, there's about 1.28 million in interest. And that's spread across, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 13 funds. So each of those funds has savings, and the savings is generating anywhere from 4.5% to 5.25%, all in principal protected investments. So it's earning a lot of money this year. Chuck's absolutely right on that. We're projecting this year in total to earn about, I'm going to guess about 1.5 to 1.6 by the time that it's done. However, the thing to keep in mind is that the fund that has the savings that is earning that interest belongs to that fund.
Right.
So water and sewer has the lion's share of that, because water and sewer has a lot of money in savings because we put money aside in the water and sewer fund over the years to accumulate money for big projects as they come along. So in the general fund, if your assumption is that there would be an additional 350,000 in the general fund, that would have to move that to about 800K, which I don't think it's.
Well, this year, 2023, we booked about 420,000 in interest. Is that right? In 2023.
So in 2023,
general fund.
So far 368 through September. So that would have to generate another. By the end of the year, we should be about, in the general fund, the interest will do kind of this over the course of the year, even if rates remain flat. And the reason is that we take in all the taxes in December, January, February, so we have a lot of money earning interest, and as the year goes on, we spend down. So by October, November, we're earning less interest in the general fund. So in total, we should probably do about maybe close to 500 in the general fund. To get that to 800, and in the budget for 23-24, we have 450K projected in interest in the general fund. To get that to 800 would require an additional 350,000 to be earned in the general fund, and that would mean that interest rates would have to go to 8 or 9% before that would happen.
Okay, so that 350 is a little fat, but I still think that there's some extra money that we're not booking. So anyway, there's a plus there, but it's not 350, we don't think right now.
Unless... Yeah, I was conservative, and I will, I'll acknowledge that. So I was conservative when I gave the numbers, for the budget.
460.
Yeah, because who knows? I mean, rates could start dropping again. They're
not acting like it in the last week.
I know, but I stopped predicting the future a long time ago because I found I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, you're right. If we were good at it, you wouldn't get up in the morning, you'd put your money down on the square.
I wouldn't be here right now if I was good at it.
You'd be in a futures contract, counting your money.
Sounds like gambling.
All right, number 3 is the utility truck, and the fire chief, when we were discussing, said that's one thing that he could forego So that's why I put that on there. Picnic tables in the park, they're nice, but we could take those out. Number 5 is Gary Heitman Economic Development is what I think. Elizabeth, is that right, that $8,000 that's in the line item?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
32, I took it down to 8. Gary's billed us about $400.
Yeah,
this
he's
year.
not billing a lot, but that's in the budget, so that's what our baseline is. The police capital outlay, which we're buying from the general fund some product that we aren't normally doing. Chief Nitel, we know.
Police vehicles.
Police vehicles. So $50,000 is about 1.3% of the total budget of the $3 million in the police department. So I thought we could find something there, extend the life of a vehicle, or explain to me why we don't have enough money in the drug forfeiture right now to buy the police vehicles, all of them that we want.
Yeah, our forfeiture money that's in that account would not sustain the purchase of the vehicles. Having a police officer ride a police vehicle over 100,000 miles, I would not recommend that. And I don't think any police.
All right, well, this is proposing a workaround. There's others, it's not just police vehicles, there's other things that we're buying in there. But that would be up to the discretion of the department head to come up with the 50,000. It's like a task that you get on your budget. So that was that idea. And then the 40,000 was police operational. You know, I don't know whether that's overtime or other things. Again, you know your budget better than anybody else. And there has been a lot of growth in the budget, so I would think that these small, typically 1% to 2% can be taken out of budgets fairly easily. And then number 8 is what I did here. I think we had, how much did we have in for the generator? Was it 60,000?
I thought it was 50.
Pardon? 50, you're right, 50. So this is what I've said repeatedly is take that $5,000 and repair the one we have, because I don't think it's safe to go without a generator. But this generator that we're proposing for $50,000 is big enough for the proposed planned new fire station. So I'm saying for this year, just get the thing fixed. I realize, when you get your vehicle fixed, there's a 90-day warranty. Yeah, there's going to be a warranty, and they'll say they can't guarantee it for the life of it, but $5,000, fix it. So there's 45 there. But my point is that these changes are well within reasonable budget cuts. I say we give the people of this community some relief. They're under pressure. I know $150 or $50, is a dinner, but at least it shows the commitment to tightening our belt, and we continue to receive more tax money, more development. Our tax dollars, we get the inflation increase. So I strongly think that we should do this. I've been trying to bring this for 3 years, and I know that there's been some blocking of it, but I'd like you to consider this today and move forward on it. So any questions?
Yeah, so my comment is that I don't agree with the approach, because what you're asking us to do is cut recurring revenue. And if you cut recurring revenue, then you need to cut recurring expense. And these are one-time expenses. So you've cut the recurring revenue stream out, and you've just done something for 1 year, and that doesn't make any sense. When you look at our budget in its totality, about 70% of our budget is people costs. It's salaries, it's benefits, it's retirement, but it's all related to people. And of that 70%, around 70% of that is for public safety, police and fire. So that means that about half of our budget is people for police and fire. Those are recurring expenses. People are recurring expenses. And we look around and we're lean. We're finally at full staff again in police and fire, and I think that's largely in part to the fact that the voters voted to support the millages to fund police and fire properly. We're back to that point now, and that's a positive thing. But unless you cut recurring costs, and in my view, unless you're willing to cut people, you're not going to cut that. You're not going to create that savings on a recurring basis year after year.
I didn't say cut people, but for example.
You never said that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying these one-time shots are, then next year what happens? You don't buy the truck again. And what happens the year after that, and the year after that, and year after that? It's not a solution.
Well, revenue naturally increases as
Some.
we have more uncapping of homes sold. You have more development, like
It does go up.
Nell Hydro, and you receive the inflationary increase on the taxable value. State shared revenue, I don't know, maybe it won't go up with the strike going on with the UAW. So there's economies everywhere. So I urge you to think about it. We're not saying cut people, but we also can longer term rationalize some of our healthcare costs. We have probably 10 different plans that people have. There's things we can do without cutting people. We're not saying that. So,
I know, and I don't mean to put words in your
yeah.
mouth. You did not say that. But what I'm saying is because our lion's share of our costs are people costs, 70% of what we
It's the
spend.
nature of the business.
It's people, it's services. So you cut expenses means that you cut services. And there's nowhere that I see in the organization where we could cut services.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I would just like to make a comment that, just over the past couple months, this board met with both the police department and the fire department and realized that we had true difficulty recruiting people. And then we said that we're going to have to offer people who want to come here to be a police officer or a fireman, we have to offer them some sort of parity. If they have 5 years of service somewhere else, but they'd like to work in Plymouth Township, but they couldn't come in at the bottom because they have family needs. I mean, they have their family they have to support, and they can't come here. And so we then decided that we had to incentivize people to come to work here. All of us realize that under the situation that we're in, we're talking double-digit inflation has been going on for the past 2.5 years. The cost is not going down, folks. And I'm not going to be a person who's going to cut public safety. I'm not going to cut police, and I'm going to cut fire. I'm going to cut emergency service. On top of that, I might add, my dear fellow citizens, the majority of you voted for the changes in the election law. It's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to pull this off. Not only that, it's going to cost police and fire protection during those times. Under the situation that we've had in the past, we've had to have police presence at all of the precincts. Now we're going to have police presence at all the precincts for 9 days.
Not all the precincts, that one.
Yes.
That one.
Thank you, but.
Risen Christ Church.
But
the 9 days.
But for 9 days, and we have to go back to the other precincts later on, and we have to do that 3 times. So I would caution, not knowing what our real costs are going to be for the election process that everybody voted for, 2/3 of the people in the state of Michigan voted for this, you're going to have to pay for it. You're not going to get people to competently service and administer the election process for $15 an hour. You're not going to get it. It's not going to happen, folks. It's going to cost a lot more money.
Well, the other thing, and just to underscore your point, is that, we want to be an employer of choice, and we want to attract the best people that we can. We're competing with the private sector. We're competing with other communities. And it's a reality. we've lost a lot of good candidates to either other communities or to the private sector as a result of that in a number of areas. It's a reality. We're doing the same, we're going through the same thing that a lot of major corporations that many of you work for or have worked for are going through recruiting talent.
And I want to tell you, I'm not going to be on the front line of defunding the police. It's not going to happen on my watch.
That's not what we're saying, but you have a good point about, Jerry, about elections. From a recurring standpoint, we're not going to have the election expenses in 2025 that we have in 2024.
Yes, we will, because we have to build a facility. You have to realize that not only.
Now you're jumping to the building a building, right?
We have to.
We don't have to.
We
got to study that.
I know you don't like it.
Maybe we'll use
I know
the
you're an
old fire
election
station.
denier and you don't like it, but listen, it's going to cost money,
You're a
folks.
denier of reality.
You know, no, I understand reality very well. So if he wants to call a motion.
Okay, I need, any
Okay,
other questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Kermey. Is there a second?
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees approve Resolution 2023-10-24-92 to halt collection of the 1% property tax administration fee, beginning with the December 2023 tax bills, and implement the revenue increases and budget reductions to offset the anticipated administration fee revenue reduction.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Kermey. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails for lack of support. Thank you.
I tried.
Okay, so next we have closed session. So for those of you watching at home, we're going to turn the cameras off because we're going into closed session. And we don't know how long we're going to be in there. I think it's going to be at least an hour. We do have to come back into this room to officially close the meeting. We can have board comments if you want. I'm just going to give an update on what we may expect at the next meeting, so I'll try to keep it short. So at this point, it is now 8:32, and I move that a closed session be called for the purpose of consultation with attorneys on specific pending litigation, Wayne County Circuit Court case number 20-002999-NI, Lascos v. Plymouth Township, in accordance with the Michigan Open Meetings Act, section MCL 15.2688E. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorva. Please call the roll, sir.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Borba. Yes.
Yes.
That's me. Trustee Kermey.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz. Treasurer.
You
I
got
already
me.
said treasurer.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley, thank you.
Yes.
And trustee Stewart. Sorry, I'm fighting a very bad cold.
In the light of the health of Mr. Borba, can we move to meet in the room across the
No, sir.
hall where there's more space?
No, sir. We're going to go upstairs where we
We're gonna
always
be
go.
cloistered in a room
We are
with
now
someone
in
who's
closed
very
session.
sick.
We are now in closed session.
You had your cootie shot yet, Jerry?